This right here is a very cool contraption if you do a lot of bedrock breaking. Now, it does look very, very complex. It's mainly down to all of the circuitry up top, but today I am going to be breaking it down and actually giving you a survival test. I'm actually going to be building this in survival to break a full bedrock roof in a nether perimeter. To start off, it is a combination of 5 of Desu's 1 overhead bedrock breakers. That is a 1 overhead on all sides, which makes this the smallest overhead bedrock breaker for a 3-way configuration. Now, yes, there are 0 overhead bedrock breakers, but those are usually 1-way. The benefit of a 3-way bedrock breaker is that it goes from side to side and then also pushes forward. So that allows a larger clearing of an area with a single machine rather than having to build, in this case, for a 257 block perimeter, you are going to need to have to build 257 of those machines at once. With these 5 machines combined, we can break a full bedrock roof with this one contraption that's combined into one. So, as I said, the bedrock breaker itself is from Desu, and we have EasyJo that made the control logic for all of them as well, that combine them all into one. And if you're not experienced with bedrock breaking, you probably don't really understand how to build this, because you can't just build it based off the schematic right away. The issue we run into is that we need clearance for the bedrock breakers. This top one over here is, of course, for the first layer of bedrock breaking, which you already have everything cleared out. Or in this case, when I'm going to be building on the nether roof, there is already no blocks in the way of this one, so we can just make this as it is. However, if you were to break this for, let's say you wanted to break the overworld at the bottom Y0 bedrock, or in other case -64, then it's the same situation there. It's just reversed. Instead of the first layer being 100% bedrock, the last layer down here is the 100% bedrock, and that one is the 20%. The only main difference is the percentage of bedrock for the start layer. They will both work the same. Also, another thing, in the nether, we cannot use water stream, so we have to use this packed ice spot, which we'll have to attach these slime pushers onto. So yeah, if you wanted to use this machine like I am going to do right now, you probably are going to want a sort of a guide on how to actually do this. So what Porter in the 404 Not Found Discord did is they broke it down in 2 different sections and allowed it to be a lot easier for someone to understand, instead of just a wall of text that really only the people that created this can actually understand to the best of their ability. So what we're going to break it down is to each different layer. We're going to build the top layer first, then once we have enough clearance for the second layer, then we're going to build the second, and then so on and so forth, all the way down until we get to the 5th layer. Then we can run them all at once. So taking the schematics that Porter did, I modified them slightly to just have different subregions. That way you can modify it to the same length that you would need to for either perimeter, or if you want to do it in a large perimeter, you can also do that as well. And this is only made for a test size. So of course you're going to need to scale the piston placers here, and you're going to have to move that return the bedrock breaker down to your length. In my case, we're doing it 257 blocks away. But the first thing we need to do is we also need to mark out where we want to break entirely. So in this case, this is a 257 by 257 area here. And we need to go out by 4 blocks in each direction from the corners. Now, why do we need to do that? Well, because bedrock breakers, like I said, have overhead. This one is a relatively small overhead, so it's not too big, but it is something we need to take into account when we actually are going to break in on this scale. Or any scale, matter of fact, otherwise you wouldn't be able to break the full. The reason why we're going 4 blocks back is because there's 1 block per overhead, 1 block per layer of overhead. So in this case, we're breaking 5 layers, but the first one has no overhead. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to confect. What we need to do is just go back 4 blocks from the corner. This will be right here for our case on all 4 corners. Once you have that marked out, you're going to want to then position the schematic here to have the sticky pistons right on top of the bedrock here, but your first bedrock you need to break is right underneath this extended piston head right here. So if you look over here, look straight up, you will see that this first piston is right above us, which is exactly what we want, because it goes this way, which is the east direction in our case, and it also goes into the south, which is what we want, because then it will go across and then move up. So what we need to do is now we need to go into the schematic here. We want to get these schematics. They're of course linked in the description down to the AutoCraft archive, where you can then grab the schematics that have the subregions Or I will also leave a link to Porter where they have the original schematics as well if you wanted to use those. And of course, the main one you could want down there is going to be EasyJo's actual original schematic of the full 5 breakers in one. Of course, because they are the original creator, definitely go show them some support and join the Discord and thank them for making this, because it does help breaking quite a lot on large scales here. So what we're going to do, go into the schematic here. We're then going to hit the configure button, and I'm going to highlight the return one here so we can see the blue outline is on the return side. We're then going to move this one over on the Z coordinate all the way down until the last piston is in line with this pillar here that I marked out. So our last piston should be right here. So go back and make sure we're in the schematic section here. I believe I'm good. Yep, so the sticky piston should be 1 block further than the last block that you were going to break, which is that one right there. Oh, there we see the last piston is that corner, which we know we aligned that perfectly fine. And of course, we have the bedrock in the bedrock, which is what we want. With the schematic, that way it helps you know which layer you were actually working on. So yeah, basically what we're going to do is we're going to build this up, and then we'll worry about the ice path in a little bit. But the main thing here, what we're going to do is we're only going to build 1 layer at a time, which of course you have to do to make room for the other layers. So this included redstone block here will stop it once it reaches a certain point, and that certain point is going to give you enough room to start building the second one. And then so on and so forth. The second one will stop at a certain point, give us enough room to build the third one, and therefore, and go. That's the process you have to do with this thing. Unfortunately, you can't just build the full thing and plug and play. You have to work it up tier by tier, which is what you have to do for a regular Bedrock breaker anyway. But this one allows you to do all 5 at once instead of having to wait for a full layer to be done and then go again, full layer to be done and then go again. This definitely is a huge time saver on large scales, provided you have the pistons to run that breaker. Because the downside to this 1 overhead breaker compared to the recent 2 overhead breaker, that's the fact that 2 overhead breaker can recycle the pistons. So with this one, you have to basically sacrifice some pistons if you wanted to do it this way, which I'm going to be doing it this way just for this one sake. And if I do find it enjoyable and a huge time saver, I may use it in the future. But of course, if you can, you would like to save the pistons. That way you don't need to keep endlessly crafting them. All right. Future Squishy here. Of course, now the time that I made this video and it finally got out, there of course is new work with the version 2 of the Beppo breaker, which of course is the 2 overhead one of Desu's recyclable one that uses the minecarts to recycle the pistons. This one is also out, as you can see here. Of course, if you wanted to use the same principles that I show for the tutorial for V1 will still apply to V2. You'll just have to take into consideration the extra block of overhead per layer for this one compared to the 1 block for the version 1, because they're different breakers and things like that. I will not have sub-regions for this one at all. If you wanted to get your hands on either the V1 or V2, make sure you go into the description down below and go to the 404 Discord. They have all this stuff in their public archive. They also have per layer individual schematics like I did originally for the V1 as well as V2. So definitely go make sure you go there and support them and thank them for that, because this makes the process of building the breaker a heck of a lot easier. And it also includes the redstone block to stop it at the correct spot for the next layer to have enough clearance. That way you're not, running it indefinitely without combining them, in a sense, to make it all 5. So yeah, definitely if you wanted to use V2, you can still do that. There is another one that does recycle the pistons, unlike V1. Definitely weigh your options there, which one you want to use. The same concept still apply. You just have to take into consideration the different breakers and placements and where the last redstone block will be for each one and stuff like that. But yeah, so of course with this one, you can make a sub-region like I did here, and we're going to extend this middle sub-region if you need to for certain areas. With this one, we're going to extend it over and over and over. That's really the only thing you can really do, unless you were to, of course, modify this extension part to your need if you wanted to do that as well. But for my use case and for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to scale it to anything that you wanted to. And if you wanted to do this yourself, make a full schematic of this, you're going to want to just take the outline of this box right here for the extension part and just copy and paste it and go all the way down. How I copied it is that this observer will go at the very end right here, so you can just copy and paste it all the way down if you would like to as well. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Like I said, if you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to build this first layer up. Once we're all good and ready to go, and we'll come back and then we'll plug in the second layer together. Alright, so laying out the schematic is pretty straightforward if you want to be lazy like me and not make a schematic for the different scale. Because of the subregions, you can sort of just render the middle one here, and that way you can only see the extension part, and then you can stack those ones all the way down till you need to. That way you have your piston placer thing all the way down to the end. Now the last one's going to be a bit tricky, just because it's not always going to be lined up perfectly. So what we'll need to do here is this last one right here for me. You can see that it intersects with the very end there, which is not really a problem. We'll just have to adjust where this redstone block is located. So the last one we need is actually right around here. This is the last sticky piston that we need here. So we just need to, once we get to the end, we just need to modify that last one and hook it up properly. It'll be pretty straightforward. You'll understand the pattern. You can always make this shorter and things like that. So we should always have the 2 slime blocks in front of this like it is right here. So the 3 slime blocks right here. We can always adjust this. We can't really extend this too much because we need the piston conveyor here. So you'll just have to sort of adjust it to your needs. This part right here can also be interchanged a bit. So this redstone block obviously is where the last piston is placed because it gets that one extended. But what we need to keep in mind is we need to keep in mind that this piston can only move 12 blocks. So this one can only be 13 blocks away from the slime block in total. That is the furthest that it can be. So in our use case here, the closest one is definitely not 13 blocks. So we will have to move on with that. And we'll see once we get to the end here. I'm going to build this on stream. So once we get to this area, we'll have to figure that out. But it should be pretty straightforward, I think. Their observers are a little bit misplaced, but that shouldn't be too big of a problem. We should be able to take where that one is positioned, where this one right here is positioned, because this redstone block is within that push limit, and we should be fine. So all we would do is get rid of the sticky piston right here, and then just extend this slime block because we have the full push limit. You can really see that there's not too much that needs to move with this last sticky piston right here. So it's pretty straightforward. We can extend this however far we need to. Alright, so the first layer is fully built here. With the engine part here, it's pretty straightforward. I was incorrect though with the amount of stuff that you can put it for. We have to gauge 12 blocks from this one right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 blocks. So we could have 4 more over here before that redstone block needs to be there. Otherwise, you need to do another segment of the push forward thing here for the conveyor. And if it ends on a weird one, it'll be a bit of an awkward situation for you. But most of the time, it's not going to end like that. But yeah, that's all good. Schematic's all verified, at least for the start of the breaker and the end of the breaker. And then we have the conveyor belt built up over here. This is also tested as well, so that works as well. And then at the very end, because we're going to only have 1 layer running at a time for the first bit, we're going to get quite a bit of excess pistons back and getting recycled. So I put a shulker box loader at the end right here, just to get the excess of that But once you get all 5 layers at the end, it should work and produce very, very little extra. But yeah, we have the supplier up here as well. I will provide a schematic of this one right here if you need to do so as well. Basically, all you need to do is this slime block is 1 block behind this sandstone block right here, and it uses the string, which is why it's off the slime off the packed ice here by 1 block. That way, nothing will stick to the actual ice path with using the alignment over here. With this simple one, it's a 4 game tick supplier. It's pretty straightforward. There's a bunch of those out there. So whatever one is your preference. So that transfers the pistons all the way down. More importantly, it also transports the pistons to the start of where the bedrock breakers are going to be. So yeah, now that it's all good, we can launch the first one. There is 2 separate ones you need to remove for each of the breakers. So of course, when we add more of them, then we'll need to do all of them at once. But don't remove this back one until, everything's all good. So this one's not included in the schematic for the first one. You need to just add a redstone block right here. This is the clock, I believe, for the pushing of the items over. And we're going to need a bot to place the pistons for each one as well. So I will be placing a bot in the center right here to load the full thing. That way we should be good. And then we'll place one for the piston placer here. And then we'll need one for each additional layer that we do. So yeah, really not the best thing for single player because we'll need a bunch of things to load it. But if you have carpet, it's pretty straightforward. Just spawn a bot there and tell them to use the continuous there. That way they can place the piston. They just stand right on top of this trapdoor, right here in the little section right here. And then the pistons will get supplied from this part right there. And of course the player will get moved as it goes on and on. And that's what this section here is. It'll drop it into the position where it's needed for the player. And then that's the additional logic back here. So for the first one, you're going to remove that redstone block right there. And then this redstone block right here. This one is the one that you're going to remove next to that sticky piston. There's signs, I believe, on the other ones to do so, but with this one didn't include any signs, at least. So no, there actually is signs on this one. This one, the first one, doesn't just have this redstone block here. So just place that redstone block there, and then you remove that one, and then you remove this one. There should be signs on all of them. Those are the redstone blocks that you'll break. Do not break this one until all of the other ones up and up and up. But yeah, so once it reaches this redstone block right here, I will be back, and we will start working on the second layer. Alright, so a couple corrections with when we actually go to use it. I did have to realign the stuff. It has to be on the left side here. If it's on the right side, when this ice block gets pulled over, for example, because we aligned it on this side originally, obviously that's not going to be able to fall down. So correction, you make it on the left side of the ice path here for the pushers. Small oversight by me as well. When actually running this breaker, do not give the bot anything in terms of pistons or things like that. It may look wrong when it does it, but from my personal experience, and I asked the creator, of course, because it didn't look right. Yes, we have broken 3 or 4 layers by itself right now, but it didn't look right to me, so I manually was given the bot down there some pistons. You would think with how the machine works that it would run the breaker, you'd be placing pistons, and it goes like that, but that's not actually how it works. It will, once you remove that redstone block over there, it'll launch the breaker. The breaker will then come back, it'll then move forward, and then everything will start from there. So it may look weird to start out, and it may look wrong when this moves, but I promise you it will do it correctly. You just gotta trust the schematic and everything like that. So I did also forget there's another redstone block down here for the piston placer. So not that one, but this one right here. Actually, just that one. And this piston right here, you gotta break that redstone block. This one as well, break that redstone block. So you got 1, 2, and then 3. Only remove this redstone block right here at the very last. Otherwise, things might not work out. So we're going to start that there. Start the clock down there for the pistons being pushed over. And another thing we need to start first is actually the supplier. So we have just the one last redstone block to remove. Just this one right here. That gets moved forward. The Bedrock breaker itself will launch, which is what you want. That piston placer is going to move forward. Don't worry, that is fine, as expected. So we are okay all there. Now you would think, for me as well, that this should be placing pistons right now while that's going. That is not going to be the case. Once this returns back, then this ice path here will then unlock. And then once it receives the pistons, once it unlocks, then the bot down there can start to receive the pistons, which is what you want. And then once it fills up completely, it'll then shut it, which is how it works with all 5 of them. So once the first lane right there gets all of the pistons, it'll then block it off, and that means the second one will be still unlocked as well, and therefore it will get some stuff into it as well. Which is exactly how we wanted to tile itself, in a sense. So yeah, now is just the time of actually waiting for the Bedrock breaker here to return. But yeah, at least when we know we were testing at the beginning that the schematic does actually work correctly, which is great because we have Bedrock being broken here, and then it does also return correctly as well. So you can see the Bedrock right beneath that piston right there getting removed, and it disappeared. Another good thing with breaking Bedrock on the Nether roof here is that there are never any liquids for you to have to deal with, which makes doing this a whole lot easier. Otherwise, I think some liquids need to be removed, but that's pretty straightforward, and it also destroys any blocks down here for the next layer. We don't need to actually go out and mine the blocks out like that, which definitely helps with multiple layers. So yeah, the bot is still there. I think I should tell them to start using continuous, because once this gets back, we're good to go. Just make sure that this layer is looking in the correct spot, which I'll do as well. Okay, they're using continuous, looking in the right direction, which is what we want. So hopefully that the pistons should start getting in place correctly once the breaker returns. Getting back here. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of pistons for the first one because this is a 4 game tick supplier. This is a 20 game tick breaker. So you're going to lose a lot of pistons, which is why we have the extra one right here. So once the first couple layers go back, we'll basically just restock that over there. But then once we get all of the 5 layers working, then it should be pretty much everything at the same. So this is 20 game ticks. If you have 5 of those, that breaks down to right about 4 game ticks, which is exactly that. And you might get some in the back end as well. But that's not too big of a deal because we have, like I said, the shulker box loader here to catch anything excess that we do use for the first couple of layers. But yeah, now that we have the Bedrock breaker returning, this one should unlock the next part here, and we should begin to start placing pistons for the next layer. Alright, that one's unlocked. Now the pistons will start to go down to the placer, and you can see that part going as well. The breaker did launch for the next layer. And then now these will go all the way down across. Once that is fully stopped, this will kick in and lock the ice path again. Going back from a 1K perimeter going to a 256 perimeter really makes you understand the scale of that 1K perimeter, because these ones feel such a small project now compared to the other ones. So yep, there we go, moves forward, the ice path got locked again, and then everything is going to go over to the next part here. Looks like we were 1 piston short. That's the next layer, so that's fine. You don't want it to obviously fill the rest of this layer in later down the line. Otherwise, you could run into some issues, but as long as everything's all placed, we're good. We move forward on this one right here, and we're starting to place this one. That's just because, like I said, there's a bit of an excess with the current one, so once all 5 are done, once all 5 are in place, it should be a lot smoother, which is what this whole thing is designed to run on. Designed to run with all 5, not just the one, but you can use the machine to start to make clearance for all of them. So yeah, now that the machine is working here, we can pretty much just AFK until we get to this next redstone part right here. This redstone block should power this sticky piston right here. Yep, that redstone block will power the sticky piston right here, which hard powers it, which basically turns it off until we then can go get the layer 2 here. It's layer 2 right here. The same process we did for layer 1, and start building everything up. Alright, so the next one is enough space has been cleared here. Another important thing to keep note of when we are building the next one, the logic part right here, part of this will have to be moved to the back one over here. It will only be ever in the last one here, so you have to keep removing it and placing it back in until the 5th one there, but that should be pretty easy to understand, so you should be okay with that. And I believe on the next one there is a missing slime block when we get to the 3rd layer. I'll make sure to show that because I think in the schematic there is a missing slime block. Just like the missing redstone block with that sticky piston on the first one. There's a couple missing blocks that have been fixed in future schematics, but are not in my sub-region ones. So if you are using my sub-region ones, that way you can actually extend the piston line without needing to go all the way down. Make sure to follow the stuff in the video here to explain. We're going to just take this part down. We're going to make sure we keep this sticky piston powered. Otherwise, it's going to launch, which we obviously do not want. So be very careful when moving this stuff forward because you got to break all of this pink stuff up here, as those are blocks that are not needed in that spot. Of course, the same thing's going to be showing for this part over here, but these will work perfectly fine. There's no need to verify that because some of them might be in a different state just based off where they are currently with the pistons. So some of these are going to be with the sticky piston on the other side, which is what you actually want when it has moved. So nothing to be worried about there. As you can see, the ones that actually have pistons beneath them, they are in the correct state, which is what those ones will do once they start to receive pistons. So yeah, once you make sure when you align the second one, you should be exactly where mine is right here. This piston should be up against that last bedrock, and the piston head should be extended into the block that is 1 block from everything, including the corners, which means you have exactly 1 block overhead, which is what we want. But yeah, now it's time to build the second one up. Do the same thing, extend it down, and then do it all the way down to the end again. And then we'll be able to start 2 of them at once. And this supplier will also be able to supply both of them, so we'll be good. Now we'll get less in the excess pile over here because there's 2 accepting pistons now at that point, which is perfectly fine. As I said, I can handle all 5 of them at once before the breakers return, so you're good to go. It'll fill the first one up. Once that one has moved forward, those piston places have moved forward one. It'll close it, and then the next one will receive it. That's how the supplier area works when there's multiple breakers. So yeah, just time to build it up. Make sure we're doing it all correctly by removing these blocks here that are excess, and then connecting the line properly with this part up here now instead. And then the same process will be when to start it. You got to remove the 3 redstone blocks per one. So we got the one up here, the one for the piston placer, and then we'll have the one in the back here for this one over here. This one right here, same thing, 1 and 2, and that should be everything. So it's 2 per breaker, and then the 1 in the back. So just keep that in mind when you're actually going to run it, because you obviously don't want to miss anything, because then it won't work properly. So yeah, back to grinding it up onto the next layer, and we'll probably be back once the next layer is ready to be started as well. Alright, so I'm in the middle of building the last bits of the 3rd layer, which is the piston placer right here. You can see the wonderful color rainbow I have of schematics just to tile the extension part here, which of course, like I said, is the beauty of the subregions. But yeah, in this situation, I wanted to bring this up just in case anybody else runs into this as well. Right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 blocks here, which means that that piston could push one more time and it would be right here, which means we are 1 block short. So how I'm going to actually tackle this is I have moved the schematic for this one. I built this one as it is in the regular schematic when it's tiled like that. So I just moved the schematic up and tiled it right at the very end here. So normally you have 2 extra blocks or slime blocks here. So normally you would have this and then the observer, but that means that we couldn't fit what we needed to in that required area. So I got those 2 blocks down and I'm going to put an observer like that. And then when we finish building the rest of this here, you will see that it's the exact same thing. It's just a little bit closer, mainly because it's a lot cheaper to actually use the full push limit rather than just doing this every few blocks like I am right now. But you will see here that it also will still fit, and we can have attached the very end part right there, which is, of course, the redstone block to stop it. And then we can attach the rails, and we're good to go. So yeah, if you run into that issue where you have 1 or 2 blocks at the end there, and you can't fit another placer, what you can do is just attach it to the very last slime block right here, and then just put an observer right on the edge of that one, and then you can build the next layer right there, and you'll be good to go. So yeah, I'm going to bring that up very close to finishing this one off here. Yeah, that is one of the things I wanted to bring up. And that way, if you run into the issue yourself, you are not lost and you don't have to, you know, scrap the entire thing, because this will, if you make it work, there's going to be some other situations where it won't work like that exactly. But this one, you are good to go because everything is working the way. But yeah, this one, you can pretty much just make it and adjust it like that. There might be some other ones that I can't cover all the situations. But yeah, this one in specific I want to bring up because there's just 1 block there, and of course you can't just pre-place all those pistons because it would run into the other breakers, which would not be, which would break the machine basically entirely. So yeah, now it's going to move the schematic back. It's going to show it's in the wrong state, obviously, but that is perfectly fine. And now we can just continue finishing off the rest of the top part with the rails and everything like that. And it seems like I missed a block here. I didn't place the slime block, so that's my fault there. But yeah, so now that we have all that set up, we can just finish this part off, place the bot for the next one, and then we can start actually placing the third one. You get all 3 of them going simultaneously, and we're stacking up to all 5, which will be a really, really cool time lapse, I think, to see all 5 of them going, especially once we get down to the bottom here with the 5th one, and then starting to see all the bedrock being exposed like that. So another tip I wanted to bring up as well, when removing the AND gate system right here from layer to layer, I would always remove the sticky piston that is powered first before removing the source block. Obviously, then you get into retractions that you don't need, which of course helps in the long run, of course. But yeah, pretty straightforward, but just a couple of helpful things to bring up while I am building this myself, just in case you guys run into some same situations like that. One last thing I forgot to bring up, like I said, there is a missing slime block in the schematic. There is a glass on the 3rd layer. You need to replace that with a slime block. I did, EasyJo, the one that created the original schematics, did realize this. They haven't updated schematics till now, so if you want the updated the full 5 ones, you want to make your own sub-regions, you can do that with the link in the for public archive that I'll link down below. My current one will not have this slime block in the sub-region one, so neither will Potter's, so just make sure that you replace the 3rd one. This is the 3rd one that we're doing. Make sure you replace that glass block with a slime block, otherwise some things might not get pulled correctly. Alright, so the 4th layer is completely built up and we are good to go. So yeah, we're gonna get the thing. I have the redstone block in place to stop that, and then we can build the last layer, and we have all 5 of them that can go at once, which of course is the main goal of this. So first, we make sure I turn the piston supplier on. That way we actually get pistons being supplied to the players, of course, to place the pistons. It's turned on now. We got everything. All the other redstone blocks have been removed besides the one that actually launches the full machine, which is this one underneath that observer right there. And we should have a little bit of pistons, just the one. I think I moved all that over this morning. So they are all there. Now we are good to go. Pistons are starting to get supplied. And I did make a backup just in case, but it's just the fourth one, so I think I'm okay. I did remember to get everything in. I'd say it's pretty hard to schematic verify it, but should be good to go. And the first one should be open. That should be placing pistons, which it is. And then each time you build the first one, it's not going to open the first time. But once that layer is completed, or that row is completed, then the next time it moves forward, it will then stay open. So we are good to go there. All four of them are actually moving, which is good. The main one we need to worry about is this one right here, and it looks like it's doing its job. Maybe you can see the bedrock being bleeded right underneath that piston. Very, very soon, it's like an hour and a half, I think, till it moves forward, we can build the fifth and final layer. Then we can actually go on for a time lapse here of the machine in action, because it's going to be quite satisfying to watch, even with like a couple of them running at once. It was already satisfying to watch for Mike Rubik and myself, so I can't imagine all five, especially in a time lapse, because obviously we're just sitting here right now, experience it in real time. I think a time lapse would look absolutely amazing with this, especially once we get down to this last layer and we can actually go right through everything. So yeah, while that's going, I'm going to be working on the bottom part here. I'll start mining some more stuff out here. This is the bottom area of the dig that is going on right now. So we kind of have both things moving at once, and then once we get that done, then that'll be a separate video. But yeah, seeing the stuff fall through like this is really satisfying for the ones in the roof. But yeah, you see all this stuff just start to fall down, especially once we get to the last layer. Everything will start to fall down here. But yeah, now that we just gotta wait to the last one, and then we can build that one up, and all five will be running simultaneously. So yeah, we'll be back once that is good. Alright, so the last layer is completely built up. I have a couple markers just to explain a couple things, and we're going to stop how to start the machine at the exact location you want it to. But yeah, last one's all built up. And now I'm just going to explain a couple things, and then we can launch the last one and then start the time lapse. So yeah, let's go to the front one up here. It's a bit easier to explain this. So this is the last block that was broken right here. So we take that block there, and we can place the redstone block to stop it on that one right here. So what that basically means is the last block we want broken, we need to put the redstone block one block in front of it. So with this marker up here, it makes it a lot easier, especially for the overhead. That way I know exactly where the first layer needs to stop, because that is there. So what we basically did is this is the first layer we want broken. So we go 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is the fifth layer, or enhance the first layer of the bedrock breaker that we need to stop there. So because we need to stop it on this block right here, which is in line with that nether rack right there, we need to have the redstone block to stop the machine for us at that block right here. So we need to get the right height. We need to put this redstone block on. So we're just going to basically take where this one is right now here. This is on Y136, and we are also in line with that. So once we have this in place, we can run it, and then it'll stop itself automatically once it reaches that area. So we're one block too high. So right there is where that redstone block needs to be to stop it. And it should break this one as its last line. If it's not, we move it one forward, but I believe that is correct right there. But yeah. So that's all good now. Now it's just time to remove the last bits of the redstone blocks, and we're good to go. Easy way to remove the ones from the on top here is just to go on this glass path right here. You can go down the line and break all of them. And then, of course, you have the ones for the piston placers themselves. All the 5 from the top. Now it's the 5 down here, so you got the one here. That one's not going to push anything because that one has the pistons pre-filled. Number 2. Actually, we jump from right here. 3. 4. And the 5th one's right over here, so they're all in the same spot, just in different machines. Obviously, you build them in the same machine, basically just 5 different times. So once you have all that, once you do the first 2, you should basically have everything memorized where to remove the stuff. Because we stopped it right here, we're going to also have to remove this redstone block as well. And of course, get rid of our markers here, because we do not need them there. But yeah, this will still have this one powered, so we won't need to worry about this. That'll still say powered because of the QC right here. We can remove that one, not a problem. And then, last thing we need to do is remove that last redstone there. I did make a backup, of course, just because you can never be too safe. And with the backup mod that we have, it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, now it's time for the moment of truth. Have all 5 bedrock breakers working. Of course, after I turn the piston supplier on, which is a quick click of a lever over here. So now, all we need to do is remove this last redstone block here. We should be good. Piston placer move forward on that one, looks good. Just out of render distance, the updates looked a little bit sketchy to me, but there is a lot going on, of course, even for the client to render. Get the piston placer up top, you got 5 bedrock breakers. Yeah, so your things are not going to update in range like they normally should. Something look a little bit weird. But in the time-lapse, of course, it's just a client-side visual glitch. So with the render, with replay mod, we should be perfectly good here, and it will look absolutely extremely satisfying to watch everything working in unison here. So yeah, now we should over here have our first layer that is beginning to be completely removed from the bedrock, which is right there. We have no more bedrock in this area right here, just making its way go all the way down. So yeah, I definitely can't wait to see this in the time lapse, and I know you guys probably will too. So I'll cut rambling, make sure everything is all working here. Ice paths are there, and now that we have all 5 of them running, we should barely get anything in the overflow for the pistons, but I would still recommend having it there because you already have it there in the first place. Might as well wait till the whole project is done, and that way, you know, we have everything we need. We're not wasting anything pistons-wise. But yeah, first one, like I said, it's not going to open yet until it moves forward, so we'll get a bit excess on the first go-around, but after that, we should be getting very, very little, if any, in the overflow. Once again, huge thank you to EasyJo and Potter for being helpful throughout this whole process, and me having some stupid questions. They were very helpful with that, and, you know, allowing me to also create a video on how to actually use this if you wanted to use this yourself. Like I said, this for a 257 perimeter, I think it's 100% worth it, especially in the Nether, because, you know, ice paths are always really annoying because you can't just, you know, place water and things like that. So I can see myself doing this for other Nether perimeters in the future, as well as maybe some other overworld ones, but I don't think we do much breaking in the overworld anyway. So, but yeah, now cut rambling and we'll get to the time lapse. Alright, so now that we have it all the way down to where the first layer needs to stop, we have in place the next redstone block. Just as a guide, we got to stop that piston right there. When deconstructing the layers, the rest will be the same for all 4 layers because they're basically the same thing. There's tiled together. Always keep this redstone block here. Do not move this redstone block, or else this is your new redstone block to stop and launch the machine. So don't remove that one until you're ready. This one you can move because it's going to stay powered from the one next to it. So it'll be the same thing once we go back over here. So say the second layer gets finished and we're back to this one. This redstone block will be your on and off switch for this one. And then you can remove that redstone block right there because it's going to get powered by the other one right there. Sort of creates like a mini AND gate between that sticky piston. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're doing that. I would also recommend putting beacons like I did over here. That way you can instant mine all of the pistons that are left over, and also helps with destroying that. Make sure you put it in range to where it'll be sort of, this whole beacon range will be there, and you can instant mine each layer that comes forward and forward. Basically, it'll be one block in front of this one. So as long as you place the beacons far enough back to not interfere with the machine, but close enough to where you can continuously mine all of them once they get over to the same spot. Because now they will stop one block in because they have nowhere to go. But we're still going to put this redstone block. This isn't where it needs to be. This is like an indicator for me because I got to put it in front of that one. Basically in line with the sticky piston right here for the second, third, and fourth. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that, of course. That way you can actually get it to stop in the correct location. They should stop where they can't move, but obviously you don't want them to collide. So stopping them layer by layer as you go will greatly help out taking down them in the process. So yeah, I could technically launch this again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this all down, then launch it. That way I can sort of, make sure nothing happens, because they are pretty quick, but they're also not the slowest things in the world. So yeah, time to break this one down before we start the machine again. And then we can continue the same thing for the next 5 layers. I think showing a thing for each layer when building them is important because that's, could be slightly different depending on things like that. And then, yeah, so ending's pretty simple. Placing the redstone block. Once the machine gets there, tear it down, and then do the same process again. AutoCraft's archive is officially live. It is mainly a collection of all of the perimeter decorations that are on AutoCraft. So if you were ever interested in picking up one of these, now would be the best time to do so. Visit the website linked down below. Alright, so everything is fully done. The lap breaker did reach the final layer here, and basically the bottom part of the breaker should stay over here, at least some of it, because it can't move forward anymore. So that's where it's going to stop. Pistons should be kind of out of order because it can't push them because of the bedrock. So with any open space, it will push them back. But yeah, now it's just time to fully disassemble it, and you're basically done. You have your full bedrock roof broken. A single thing at once, in a sense. Obviously, it's 5 machines working in unison, but it's still kind of 5 in 1 once you combine them all together. But yeah, so to actually stop it in the correct place, what you're going to want to do is this part right here is our last one that we broke. So right in front of these sticky pistons is the last block that we wanted to break. So this one right here. So what you're going to want to do is go 2 blocks away from that. Then on this block right here, the third block that we placed, your redstone block is going to be there. Of course, that's just for demonstration purposes. You're going to want to power this sticky piston right here with this redstone block. So you can see right here, this is on the third block from where we last broke. So we got 1 and 2, and then we're right against the block there. So this is the last block I want to break. 1, 2, and 3. And then just like that, your redstone block should be there for every single layer. It's the same for all layers. So it's 3 blocks, and then the redstone block will be there, and you'll stop exactly where you need it to. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial on how to actually use this. Of course, like I said in the beginning, link to the original creator by EasyJo and Potter for helping me out with the actual schematic for each layer. You can visit those down below, and of course check out the 404 Discord as well to get those schematics. If you wanted to get the one that I made with the sub-regions, that way you can extend it how far you want without needing to go into the different world and make a whole big one. That will also be in the AutoCraft Discord if you wanted to join that down there. So yeah, now that we have this fully done, we can work on the bottom part of the perimeter now, since we have mined that out as this has run. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those other things, and I'll see you in the next one.